Hello and welcome to Turning Lewks, a beauty and cosmetics podcast. I'm your host Darren, and this month we have an amazing and super special guest on. We have J Mac, who was in the second season of Glow Up and is an incredible makeup artist in all of the senses. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time. We're going to get straight into it. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm good. I am in my apartment in London. I've come back from Ireland recently. Work is good, and I'm just waiting for it not to be like British winter. I think we've all experienced it for the last 7, 8 months. But you know what? There's something to be said about being at home on a Saturday. It feels like I have a some normal regiment. Normally, I'm on a shoot or just not relaxing on a Saturday morning. And sometimes it's okay to like be okay.
Yeah, I feel like, especially for you, it must be quite hard to relax. And I feel like you're constantly always doing things. So when you have like that moment of like, oh, I'm not doing anything, now what do I do with my life?
Exactly. And I think that's been the case for years. And it's been the case since pre even moving to London. And there's less of this anxiousness as I get, less younger, a little wiser. In my 30s, I find I'm just not as like putting myself under pressure or care as much to be proven to be seen busy. So sitting at home, it's like the lights are on, but the voices are not screaming. And maybe there's a bit of wellness factor in there. But yeah, it is. I think for anyone that's in a creative sphere in any regards, it's always going to be difficult. Like, this part of me is like, what am I going to do today? And I've asked Liam that question 5 times already this morning. Then I remember we had the podcast, and then I was like, okay, well, that's something. And then, yeah, like doing something that's not maybe massively productive can still be okay. But I do like to keep moving. I wouldn't just lounge around without thinking or working on something in the background.
So how did you first become like interested in makeup? How did that all begin?
Been into art since as much as I can remember, but I was always an artistic child, like batiks, clay modeling, sandcastles more than I should have a mortgage on sandcastles. And just being busy with my hands, Lego connects. And what got me into, I suppose, the makeup art realm, I remember Amy Winehouse had just won Best Album Grammy for Back to Black, and all the girls are wearing the big thick liner, the wispy lashes, and just to be obsessed. I wanted nothing more than to emulate that, but by God's no means on myself. I had a Sharpie pen on my school books and just got really into face charting. So I was sketching beauty before I ever was, touching makeup products, because there's that preconceived idea and a mindset in rural Ireland in like the early 2000s that I had no inspiration to say that was okay or something that, it felt very standout. So the safe place for me was just drawing on the books. And I also had equally a larger, like big permanent marker, and I'd block out all my sketches on my books because I wouldn't bring a face chart pad because anything to conceal giving anything away. So I did that for years in school, and then I finally just convinced myself that it was okay to rob without permission all of my cousin's makeup, my mum's makeup bag, the liners, the lipsticks, and I started to do this wing liner on myself. And I thought it was soft and supple, and then it'd be like up here, and then it'd be past the brow. And I get it like looking like the girls in school, sharp, thick line, and it was very like Tumblr-esque as well, like big cat block shapes with like pretty much drag before, well, drag was, I suppose, introducing a lot of the emo girls into the scene in itself. But then I just would just get creative with it because I always loved art.
You can see that in your makeup style still now, that kind of very like winged kind of look. You always like you have your signature style is very like snatched winged kind of eye makeup. So you can see that like that kind of journey of it. You still kind of stuck with what you kind of started with in that sense. Obviously, it's progressed and changed and developed, but there's still that hints of it now.
Absolutely. It's like, I'm at the stand behind the yellow line, I put the yellow line on my face. And yeah, there was just no stopping me, but there was no stopping the willingness and the curiosity. I think I'd like to thank my curiosity for my campness and my artistic flair, because I did hold myself back for a really long time. And it wasn't until I was 24 that I even picked up a makeup brush to do it physically as like a makeup craft and even show somebody. I had done it with like cheap plastic, less than £1 pieces of makeup products that were getting me a certain way, but I never did like a full beat or say I'm going to do like, lip, face, eyes until my 20s. I was doing elements of drag in my parents' bathroom at the weekends because I went to a co ed boarding school from 11 till 18, and we only got to go home weekend periods. And from about 16, I was doing it like literally with something like a kohl liner pen. And I'd be doing like a pencil eyeliner, like trying to make that sharp. I was nowhere near confident or even understood that you could have like, an ink pen to do finer detail. So it was very soft and blurry for a few years before, yeah, my 20s, I actually did my first ever full like beat of makeup.
And so did you start off by like, was it doing makeup on yourself kind of first and foremost, then before you started doing it on other people?
Yeah, I did it all on myself until 20, let me see, 3, 24. I remember almost like coming out again before even coming out a third time to say like I'm flamingly queer or the elements of drag. Being a makeup artist, saying I was interested in makeup. My mom was always super supportive. She let me be an artist to her face. She was like my muse. And then I started to ask friends at Halloween. And you know what? I'm trying to even remember because it's not even by numbers that many years ago, but I packed in a lot kind of post COVID or since the last 4 or 5 years, that everything previously is like a very big blur. So I'm really trying to think now. Um, yeah, the first time I would have worked on someone would have been about 23 or 24. And, that needed to be a very safe space because I was nervous about it because I love art so much. And I knew I was very good at like making batiks, certain types of sketches, and, oil and canvas and water-based paints in school. Oh my God, it was a total different kettle of fish to learn how to use makeup as a medium and the face as a canvas because that piece of paper changes every half an hour. There's oil secretion, and I'm like, why is that like watercolor not staying on the eyelid and it's crying down mom's lip? So there was a lot to learn, and I was very scared about letting myself, learn from mistakes and then not being, I suppose, perfect from day one. So I did a lot of holding back until my mid 20s.
That's really cool though, like being able to paint watercolors and acrylics and stuff and taking those kind of ideas and putting them onto a face is very different. But then there's also, I guess, a lot of similarities within that too.
There is, and once I just let myself go and practice a lot more, I realized that I could use makeup as an expressive way to improve my own perception on art, how it made other people feel. I guess starting the journey to becoming a makeup artist because it's going to sound so cliche, but it happens for so many people for this exact reason. I never set out to be a makeup artist. I wanted to be an architect, and then I wanted to be, well, I trained and lived in Switzerland when I was 16 as a ski instructor. I was quite athletic as a child and was always brought up in a competition environment between horse riding, running, swimming, and it sounds very notable because there's no snow in Ireland, I'm well aware. I just was fortunate that I had the opportunity to go skiing on occasional seasons, and I took to it like a duck to water, but I guess a goat to snow. I don't know, but I was quite good at it. So I was going down a different career path before, alongside coming out and just having a flair for art as a child, and you know hiding certain elements of it until I got through the other side, and I got through university. I did a bachelor's of science in media, so I went from skiing, athletic professional, to wanting to be in media, a web developer and video like production operator, to then being a makeup artist.
I feel like that's such a queer journey of like not having not really having an idea of what you want to do slash trying everything and then ended up in the most random way possible.
Yeah, exactly. And that in itself is, you can't, without living the experience, especially in the past 5 years, know, if you were to go back and tell your younger self, or even to tell people at an earlier stage in life what I want to be, I couldn't have done it without being at this point now. And I think that's a lot more common in our generation now, to let yourself grow and let yourself, experience the unpredictable, but having like a rough sense of an idea, like, having ambition, let's just say, and then not being afraid of letting that change as many times as you want before, you're comfortable in yourself and you're more like, more reassured than you were, let's say, a year ago about what it is you want to do now. And I think that's been a big thing. And I've seen it with, representing for my own craft and part of our industry, and it being queer in the community as well, to not be afraid to accept that change and live it and adapt. And, constantly, if you were learning from it and adapting that, learning experience to whatever, better yourself in some degree, well, there's no harm in that. And only now can I, get to the point, or even we can, like, share that experience, because as creative artists, we never wake up and say, okay, I'm going to have a gallery exhibition when I'm 30 and I'm going to be a certified makeup artist in whatever field. And then also in the stick of it, you're only as good as like your last look. I don't know what happens, 2 or 3 months from now.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure there.
Absolutely. Oh my God, pressures for tires. That's what I try to say. When I'm still Leo, I can feel it every day.
And recently you had a gallery exhibition. How was that like? What was that like putting that on, and what was the pressures of doing that kind of thing?
I know I'm really grateful you were there to support at the start of this year. Maybe it's an odd to myself turning 30 at the end of 2023. I created Makeup Times Art, the gallery exhibition, where it was showcasing a lot of work that I have, well, pretty much archived and generated for the last 4 to 5 years. And I'm very lucky that I had a cousin who's now based in France, working and living in London at the time for the Royal Dance Academy. And a colleague of her moved from Royal Dance to Morley Gallery, where I hosted this gallery with Makeup Times Art. And last summer, he was pestering me in a really nice way. James, you need to do something with the work that you had created, all those years ago. And I've got this gallery space. And it was a bit of fortune. He had a commissioner drop out, but the deposit was paid for the space because it takes a lot of money in preparation and team involvement to put on a gallery of work. And then also I had to get over myself to say, don't limit yourself to being a makeup artist and you can't be a gallery creator. Fuck it, do it. Like it kind of has helped me re-inspire myself again this year. And I guess I'm making a promise to myself this year to be back in my creative box, create new stuff, but bring back this time where it was all of these looks. And I'm very grateful for the people in the community that really showed up, including yourself, Darren. It was, the hard thing to do at the very start of the year. I'm amazed people came out on a wet, dark end of the month, January, to support. But, it kind of helps revive the idea, and not just for myself, hopefully for a lot of other artists. And I think that's what we need in the community consistently because we're always inspired by one another. I'll actually say it here first on Turning Looks. I'm very happy to say that Makeup Times Art will be coming to Ireland next, and I'm going to be doing a roadshow of it across different gallery venues in the Midlands of Ireland and hopefully then Dublin. And there is a big show that I'm doing in my local art centre auditorium, like August, September. TBC on that, but it could be 300 people in a room. So I'm like, that'll be the biggest class I'll ever done, and it'll be on home turf as well, which is, I'm very proud to be Irish and an artist and part of this industry. So who knows where it's going to, who knows where we'll be in 5 years' time from now.
I think it's also one of the things that it's nice to, like you said, it inspires other people. Like they can see you doing it, so it means they can do it. No, there were so many other artists there, whether they were drag artists, makeup artists, other creatives who were in that room who were like, okay, now this is something I can achieve. It's like I can achieve or do, or it's possible to put on a gallery space and show off my work, or it's okay to. It's okay to take that time to be like, I'm going to celebrate the things that I've done because they're awesome and be allowed to do that. Where a lot of times I think people, or we all kind of sometimes maybe feel a bit, oh, we can't show off about ourselves, but actually like we are allowed to.
Yeah. And I think there's been a self-exploration journey to feel like I'm allowed to validate my own work and celebrate it in a modest self-loving way rather than being like for vanity purposes. And that takes time because I think when Glow Up happened for me, it was a great opportunity, and I was really there for the love of art and love of makeup. We all saw how many times I was in the red chair because I had no industry experience, and it showed. And that's, I think, what I've been so obsessed or focused on, wanting to improve my professional levels as an artist, make it more of a career-based means, and that's happening. And it constantly will be forever changing and evolving on a yearly basis. Even the greats in the industry say, God, you never know what's coming, but you have to, you need to be in that mindset to be the type of person that would live like this, or be responsible for your own work per se. And because I got so obsessed in that, there was like a bit of me that kind of got a bit quiet about my creativity again. And yeah, there was so many artists and great creatives that I was obviously getting inspired in the last few months, and then I had the opportunity. And I think there's nothing wrong, or it's the only thing that can help you go is to reinvent yourself, or even just to do something where you can mark a milestone and then you can go and recreate again. One of my mantras is give time. So trust the process when you're ready to, well, turn looks again.
But also, like, you can't deny that you've worked for it as well. Like, you work really hard. You're constantly working. Like, you're one of the probably most successful people to come off of Glow Up, but you are constantly working for that. It's not like just that you've managed to get the studio space or the gallery and all this kind of stuff because out of luck. It's because you've worked hard for it as well. And you've made a name for yourself through all the work that you do.
I'm gonna say thank you because I used to be very modest and be like, oh, stop it, but in real Irish, like, Asterisk, no, 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 yes, bitch. Period. I have Tourette's in the last few years, definitely at the end of 2022, and this time last year, the condition had been exacerbated a lot more, and I think it's post-COVID, my vaccines, and I've had to do a lot of, I suppose, I'll call it as it is, soul searching and some self-help and healing to help manage my own condition a bit more. I have motor neuron Tourette's and tics, which is all the physical stims and body twitches. The verbal form that we all stereotypically are aware of is copralia. And people always say, oh, you've got Tourette's. Why aren't you shouting or swearing? And I used to think that's exactly what it was. So I was miseducated on myself because as a syndrome and a condition, it's one of the most misunderstood conditions in the medical field, but yet one of the least talked about because it's a minority in society. Lewis Capaldi's episode on Glastonbury in his Netflix documentary, to no, disrespect of like he put on the map because of sharing his uncomfortability. I found it so hard to watch it for his sake, but it helped raise more mainstream awareness. And it got me thinking about more ways, why am I like this, rather than just saying, oh, I'm like this. So that is what has been helping me feel a bit more confident to know that I'm can do certain artistic work. And well, like I just wanted to be pain free and happier with my own physical personal life. So I suppose there's a lot of resilience in this industry. You have to be resilient, and sometimes you can be very modest about accepting that. Because yeah, we all have to fight for our space, but with that just comes more knowledge. And I've learned so much in the neuroscience field and like from a gallery perspective and art as well. Knowledge is power. And I often say that a lot of makeup artists, or to be in this industry and to be reinventing, or we talk so much about creating looks, there's never a limit on how much you can learn and know. It sounds so cliche, and it sounds very SJP, like Sarah Jessica Parker. I've been taking myself off to galleries, and I went to see the Tate Modern the other week, Tate Britain. Work has kind of allowed me in this industry. When you freelance, I feel like I can have some time to indulge and invest in my own interest in art, where that used to be a cost. Every day it costs, literally pounds, a few pennies just to exist in London. Everything has expiry date between bills, paying for London transport. We're in the cost of living together, no matter where we are in our journeys or careers or work. But recently it feels like I can, buy myself some time that I need to invest in inspiring myself. So that has helped me, grow and learn. And I say the greater industry will also say that once you just cease to exist or stop thinking and remain curious, that's what helps me, stay current for myself, not just for the industry, for anyone else, or for social media, for what it's worth.
Changing the subject quickly and kind of going back to a topic you touched on earlier, you used to do your Tourette's Tuesday. Do you still do those videos? And like, what made you start doing them? I mean, I think again you touched on a bit earlier. And like, what was the impact that you had from doing them as well? Like, how was it kind of talking about it and the like perception you got from it as well?
Dress Tuesdays will come back. I did it for like a summer season. I think I did 13. It was like 3 months, summer last year. And I'm happy that you're aware of it. Thank you so much. I actually quite well timed. The month of May is Tourette's Awareness Month. And last year I had a reach out from a close friend who also has Tourette's, and her mother actually is an officer and works for the National Associate Charity Tourette's Action, which is the UK's leading organization to help support people living with Tourette's and all of the elements and different diagnoses and forms of TS. And we did a Instagram live raising money for Tourette's Action. I think post show, and Glow was the first time that I ever publicly had demonstrated or showcased video proof of me living with Tourette's. I just got on with my life for years thinking, okay, I understood the stereotypes. I never read up and educated myself on my own condition. I just got along with it. COVID changed that for me because I said earlier, the vaccine had really exacerbated the tics becoming so extreme that there was days I couldn't finish makeup on sets it was really damaging my mental health or just deteriorating how I felt about myself. And I was experiencing a lot more pain. I've lived in a kind of subtle chronic pain for years, but to the point that it was starting to or it stopped me from doing certain things. So I was getting kind of, low key depressed. And I don't say that lightly, I'd say it in the best respects. It's difficult, but I was always very good at dressing it up. So I had to feel more confident to talk about it again. And 2 years ago, I did a BBC Sounds interview with a TV children's presenter on the BBC, and he's also a presenter across many platforms, AD Smith. And he interviewed me in 2022 about the truth about Tourette's. And it was a BBC Sounds interview that came out almost 2 years ago. I'm trying to remember. And he had interviewed a lot of other people with Tourette's. And that's where I educated myself and heard about Pete Bennett being on BBC or the Big Brother, and a few other neurologists and scientists that actually had Tourette's as well, talking about the condition. So it was the first time I actually was curious, thinking, can I do something about it? Because I just thought everything about my situation was just involuntary. So back to last year, I do Tourette's Live, and it went really well. We raised over £200 on the live link for that, time that we did the live for Tourette's Action. And I just thought, oh my God, I have a lot more power and space to help represent and just give something back to the community. And remembering that my Tourette's is a superpower rather than being a hindrance to me. And I had believed that growing up, and it helped me in so many other ways when I was trying to just come out, not worry about my Tourette's. Like I found the welfare support group from Glow Up quite, helpful for me at the time. And everyone flooded my DMs during the pandemic because everyone started to relate. They all have varying tics, and everyone seems to have strands of neurodivergency. And I started to feel the love. Then last year, I just got to the point where I worked for a studio space. I like to be quite organized, and I need to see the structure to feel prepared and basically not as distracted. And I always wanted to do a series. So I did it last year. What I did find was talking about it more brought up conditions. And I think what I've learned since last season's Tourette's Tuesdays is to be able to have a safe space in my own body and mind, and the thinking process when I'm talking about it, it can be a trigger point. Like if someone is ticking in the room, it literally will come up for me. Oh my God, point in case. And sometimes, people would think, God, is that just like for show or not? And I'm like, no, mama, I don't have enough time to put this on with my life. So I feel I do want to bring it back this year, but I will be in a lot more of a better place where I can talk about it. And I've gone away for the last 6 or 9 months, and I've found a lot of treatments, and have done a lot of physical processes and therapies that have helped soften my body and my relationship to it. It is deeply, deeply rooted. And yes, my diagnosis it's involuntary Tourette's. There's no particular cure, but there's a lot of symptoms and things that can help calm somewhat of the symptoms that are just very, very habitual. Like I would say that there are some deeply rooted habits, but it is there. And yeah, I've the last few months in Makeup Times Art was an echo of that. I suppose it's like self-love and affirmation that I can love it a lot more now. And I do want to bring it back, because when I did it last year, I was Googling every week information about thinking, what do I need to know about Tourette's to have a video ready? Where now, long form chatting is back. I struggle with getting things short and concise. I have a lot more information to share.
That's awesome. I found them really interesting. I don't think this was part of the series, but I remember you posting about I think it's like either just before you'd gone on a holiday or back, but you were posting like the patches that you had on your back that were helping the electorate. Like even like someone who's not Tourette's, I remember like seeing that content and stuff. So there's
Oh,
like
well,
yeah.
that's great. But that's something that is really important, because they're actually called neurocore. They're a bioelectrical pad, and basically they do peripheral nerve stimulation and muscular nerve stimulation. So much more. As makeup has changed my life, it has helped, create the life that I think is, the life I'm meant to live. All of those, good fields. Yeah, I'm looking to talk about a lot of those things a lot more on the series, and having these treatments in health has helped me come back to a space like I remember post COVID, or just 5 or 6 years ago when I was in my early 20s, where my first love is art and wanting to create something magical, because that's why I want to be in this industry. And, I've had to make some sacrifices, but I'm grateful because I feel like I'm on the other side where I know a lot more.
I'm so sorry, but that is all we have time for this month's episode. This is part one of two parts of the chat with J Mac. So tune in next month for the rest of the conversation. Trust me, it's just as interesting, just as educational, and just as amazing. So make sure you subscribe on all platforms, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and I will see you next month for the second part. Bye.